Hello. A few days ago, me, Jackson Crawford, and Luke Ranieri had a social call where we discussed a few video ideas, and one of those was that we would try to learn to do each other's accents. So after a little bit of cobbling together a time to record, this is the outcome of that Zoom call where we tried to learn each other's accents. I think it's a very interesting little dive into individual people's phonetics and how hard it can be to exactly describe how somebody's pronouncing something. And hopefully everybody watching enjoys it as well. Thank you to both of them for participating in such an experiment.
So Simon, could I hear you say this twice?
No one is. No, hang on. No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people. No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people.
So the first thing I'm thinking is your diphthong in no is different from mine. I feel like you're starting at eh.
I would say I'm starting more centrally than front. So I
So
would
like a schwa.
like a schwa, I think. So
No, no,
uh, uh,
no,
that's getting there, I think.
no. Are
Oh,
no,
that's approaching it, I think.
no. Um, I also I think there's this is splitting hairs. I think there's subtle differences in English speaking dialects between how long that onset nasal might be held. Um,
Oh, what as in no, like how long you'd hold the n for?
yeah, no versus no, right? I
Okay.
think there's, in fact, possibly regional differences there. I, I'm thinking you might actually hold it a hair longer than I do.
I believe,
No, 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 something like that,
yeah.
maybe.
I reckon that that's something I'd never noticed. It's the kind of thing that might not be described in a paper because it's such a small difference, but might be perceptible. So that's I haven't noticed that as well. Yeah.
All right, and then I'm also wondering the second word. My guess. So it sounds like you have a wedge vowel there.
I've never known whether to transcribe it as the wedge or the like capital A.
Say
Arc
it.
one.
I
Hmm.
mean, it hits my ears like a wedge.
Now
Um,
saying it, I reckon it might be. Yeah, I reckon you might be right.
no one, no one.
Okay, I think that's very close. I'm trying to work out what's I uh uh uh. I wonder if the first element of no might have a tiny bit of lip rounding that I've never noticed before.
Hmm.
No, oh,
No,
no.
no one in this world.
I
No
reckon
one,
that sounds a bit. I reckon that sounds a bit closer. What do you,
no one.
Luke, as a phonetics man yourself? Are you hearing anything?
Oh yeah, I'm been thinking about that too. The strut vowel is a bit different, I think, for American and British generally, right?
I
Uh
think it's slightly diphthongized in American English.
y- um yeah, especially with the N. So like wa and one. So but yeah, alt one, something more. It's hard to put my finger on it. Yeah.
No one in this world. Trying to. I think in and this are probably not too difficult here.
I think I'd agree. I think if you went into like this, you might find that there was a slight something that's slightly a centering diphthong in your accent just by the skin of its teeth. But
Oh,
I could be wrong there. That's just me listening to it. But I reckon.
so am I saying too much like this? Like there's almost like there's a tiny little like off glide where you have a crisper this.
That's how I'm thinking. I would say like.
Oh, huh. I can see it. No one in this world.
Okay, I reckon the first four words are getting there. I think the vowel in world may be a bit too rhotic.
Okay, sure.
That's one of the hardest ones, Simon. You went hard on him on us. I have to do this too.
Yeah, well, hey, at least it's not squirrel. So I'm trying to think of how to IPA represent your pronunciation here, because I'm thinking it might be like W backwards epsilon. And I'm trying to think of what the L is. I guess it's because it almost seems like for a, the briefest moment, it might be a syllabic L. Like world.
I thought that was actually very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, world. So I because part of what I'm doing there is I'm kind of like just for a moment doing a syllabic L.
Like a sort of velarized L.
Yeah, but
just
holding it, letting it be a sonorant.
Like in the coda.
No one in this world.
I reckon that's pretty close. I reckon that we're getting to the point where that sounds like a British accent and it's just the minutiae of my own personal. But then it's like, how do you separate that from voice? Just someone's voice.
Right. And I think that's actually one of the more interesting things about this exercise is there's a temptation when you're imitating someone across the pond to kind of just do like, here's my generic British accent, here's my generic American accent, but you don't have a generic British accent, and neither one of us exactly has a generic American accent. So it's like, where's that funny thing that's like, I'm not exactly trying to sound like I'm on the BBC. I'm actually trying to sound like Simon.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that syllabic, like almost syllabic L thing is sort of helping me get there. And then I think there's not a whole lot there unless maybe there's kind of the same like crisper quality versus mine, maybe not an off glide sort of hiding in there. One thing I'm wondering about, there's two things I'm worried about with useless. One is I'm wondering if your vowel is going to be backer, because I think it is a little backer, and I'm wondering if we have a different unstressed vowel. So say it for me.
I agree with both of those things broadly, but I actually think I may front the goose vowel in certain contexts, but useless.
Useless. I'm trying to go backer than I normally would on the oo, and I feel like your unstressed vowel there is truly a schwa.
Yeah, I agree.
Useless.
In your own pronunciation of it, would the unstressed vowel be more towards the kit vowel kind of thing?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
I think you're doing well there with the unstressed vowel.
Useless.
I think I don't know if this is a correct analysis of my own accent, but could you experiment with maybe pushing the oo further forward a little bit? Just to see.
Useless.
See, I think that might
useless. Yeah, it may not be exactly the furthest back oo ever. It may be getting toward a centralized kind of oo.
Useless.
But it's not quite what letter U represents in like Swedish Norwegian, which is further
Is it-
forward than that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's not like a front vowel by any stretch.
It might be something like the Japanese oo. Yeah, which is written as almost like a W looking thing. I think
Unrounded,
that's actually
high
like
back vowel.
unrounded high back. Useless.
I see. It's funny because impressionistically, I always heard the Japanese one and thought it was just fronted until somebody told me that it was unrounded and it had some weird lip posture.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually. Maybe if I filmed myself doing it, maybe it would be slightly unrounded, and that's what I'm hearing.
Well, we should watch your lips carefully.
Yeah. Okay. Useless.
That's not too rounded.
Okay.
Are you sure about
Useless.
the backness of it,
Useless.
Jackson? It sounds pretty
Yeah, I
forward.
agree. It's like every time I hear it, I think it's a little further forward than I thought it was originally.
With that, I
Useless.
might be paying attention to it, and it might be that I'm actually pronouncing it differently, but I'm trying not to. But for me, it sounds a bit like, you know, the IPA character that's a U with a cross through it. That's kind
Okay.
of what
Okay. Useless. Useless. Is that
I
getting
reckon
close?
that's pretty close, I think.
No one in this world is useless.
I reckon that's not quite there, but close.
It's not super segmentally there because I'm not quite getting your pace and tone. I'll try that. That'll be the last thing I try to do.
Yeah, that's fair. For the end.
If I'm not expecting more than maybe the mild off glide not being there, they, I mean, is there much different the way we say that?
They mine might be like the tiniest bit lower.
They, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, until you
They,
put it in your recent Great Vowel Ship video, I
Yeah,
wasn't
I would-
consciously aware of the fact that certainly in your accent and probably most Southern English people have an open as the first component. I always just thought in English that vowel sound is a, but it's American English. They, at least in my accent, and not sure how Jackson does it.
well, I would normally say they, which I think is about the same as what you're saying. But so Simon, I think, yeah, you're right that it's a little bit lower. They. Well, it's actually not real aggressively off glided, is it?
Aren't they? Not
They.
say it's not like I wouldn't say it's not like an I, capital I, like hit vowel off glide. I think it's a bit tenser than that. I think if you start from like, what's your dress vowel like?
Dress. Yeah.
I'd say if you started from there.
A.
That's pretty much it, I think.
They. Okay. No one in this world is useless if they. Now, this word may provide some interesting problems for me. All right, let me hear you say it.
Lighten.
Lighten. I feel like you've got a real diphthong right up top. I guess that's a flap for the T, or if it isn't, it sounds not like, it doesn't sound like you're making a hard voiceless stop.
See, I think I go straight from the vowel into a glottal stop. And
Lighten.
then lighten.
Lighten. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, actually, I'm so used to just sort of like translating that in my head that I wasn't quite hearing it right. Lighten.
Yeah. And then I think that I feel like what's your price vowel normally?
Price.
I would say you start a bit further forward than me, maybe.
I don't know. I feel like it's, yeah, maybe.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe. Lighten. I'm also wondering, is that a syllabic in or is there a schwa in? Because it almost sounds more like a schwa in.
I'm thinking it's syllabic, but that might be a misanalysis. Lighten.
Lighten. Lighten. No, you're right.
Syllabic,
I guess it sounds right. Lighten. Lighten. If I try to go a little bit, like, I don't know, higher or something with that first diphthong, lighten. Lighten. If they lighten.
That's another one that sounds British, but I'm not sure if it's quite. But then it's like this thing. If you
lighten.
maybe I feel like lower than that. Like if you start
Lighten.
R, I.
Lighten. Lighten.
I think that's good, what you just did there.
If they lighten.
I think that's good, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, like, these are small differences that do make a difference in how you perceive someone.
That's was the whole point of his Simon's videos lately, about the interpretation of what we assume to be, you know, social class, higher or lower, is programmed into us. What sounds posh in the 2020s was commoner 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Is that straight up just Evan Schwa? Okay.
I think it is just Evan Schwa, I think.
Now, all right, a couple things I'm thinking here. Probably the same vowel as in world here for so burdens. The burdens.
That's pretty much right, I think. I think it's d released straight into a syllabic n. So like burdens.
So the duh, unlike the t, isn't becoming a glottal stop.
No.
That's interesting. Yeah. The burdens. The burdens.
I think that sounds right.
And then I thought the next two words, it sounded like both had, I thought, a wedge of other.
I think normally I would say of unstressed, so I say of.
Oh, okay. Of the burdens of other.
I think that's perfect, other than like this tiniest bit of rhoticity at the end. I think
other. So just be like a schwa, like
yeah,
other.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. People.
Now, I think in normal speech, I would probably vocalize the L. So I would say people with what probably like a fairly tense. I don't know the Greek letter that's been turned. Is it an omega upside down? That's what it is. Sorry. Like a tenser version of the foot vowel in most accents. So like people,
people.
But people. I think I'd normally completely vocalize the L so that it's just a vowel basically.
Right. That's more like what I had heard. Okay. Now say the whole sentence again.
No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people.
So there's a suprasegmental here that's really challenging if I'm trying to convincingly, call your credit card company and tell them that the charges are legitimate. We both have some I'm trying to think of words that mean something to everyone, like some resonance. There's some places where there's a little bit of a throaty echo. And I feel like it's not on the same places. Right. Like, for example, what I heard there was like no one. Like there's you get a little bit of that kind of throaty resonance on that wedge vowel. And hitting that exactly right strikes me as a really hard part of imitating you. No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people.
I think that's very, I'm sorry.
But that's my suprasegmentals, right? Like, it's, man. I mean, of course, our lungs are different, our voice boxes are different, but
that's true. That's probably part of it. Is that there's a point where it comes so close, it's hard to tell what's just the formants that contribute to the voice rather than the lower formants that contribute to the actual vowel qualities and things.
yeah, and I guess on other suprasegmental points, I would call you a moderately careful speaker most of the time. I feel like that's actually I think that's a characteristic that does stand out about someone, right? You're not tripping over your words as you say them, but you're also not stilted sounding ever, right? And I would say your pace, if you think of an average English speaker's pace as a 1, I think you're like a 0.9, maybe, like you're maybe a little bit slow, but you're not a slow talker.
Right.
What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. You started the scale at 1. It's interesting. So it goes from 0 to 2, right?
Well, I'm thinking about speeding up versus
I was
slowing down.
Yeah, 0.9. Yeah, 0.9. Are you a 0.8 or a 0.7?
I'm slower for sure. So actually, maybe that's one thing I need to think about is like being a tiny bit faster. Maybe. No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people. That's me a little bit faster, which actually I think sounds a little closer. But the resonance that you put on like some of those vowels, some of those stressed vowels, it is not easy to sound like.
Maybe that's just a voice thing.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's like just your vocal cords,
Okay. No one in this
like
world.
it's a. Do you hear what I'm talking about, Luke?
Yeah, oral posture is one term for some of those things, right? Just the attitude of the voice, how things come through. Sometimes I know actors obviously have to do this all the time when they're imitating other voices, and if they're playing historical characters or something like that, and they try to. It's just usually intuitive for them, even if they do vocal training. They're normally just trying to inhabit the personality of the person that they're imitating somehow, whether it's Winston Churchill or someone, and that's how they're bringing those elements through, little characteristics, almost like a caricature, right? Because a caricature, if you really think about it, usually is so disproportionate and it couldn't possibly look like that person, yet it always does. And I think it's something like that where we pick out certain things that make us recognize the familiar elements.
Yeah. All right. So, Simon, I think you should say it again, and then I'll say it again, and then you give me a grade.
Okay. No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people.
No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people.
I think that's an 8.5 for me and a 9 for sounding British.
Okay, all right.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay.
That's what I'd say. Does that sound all right?
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it. That's actually good. I was going to be happy with like 7.5 or better.
I reckon there was. What was I going to say? I reckon you did a very impressive job as well of because normally if I have to say a sentence in some like random old variety of English, I find myself doing it so many times, listening to it back on the computer, noticing some phonetic detail that's wrong, having to go back and do it again. But I feel like you're very good at monitoring and making an effort on each word rather than focusing on certain words and leaving others.
Thank you. And if you want to put your credit card details in the chat,
Yeah,
I'll find out if this works.
if you want my £6.50 that's in my bank account, you're welcome to it. That's a joke. That's a joke. I don't want to be complaining like people that kindly donate to me on Patreon going, oh well, if he's going to be like that, then.
All right, you want to find out who goes next? All right, so I've been an imitator, so now imitators are down to L and S. So L, Luke is 1 to 3, Simon S, 4 to 6. 6, Simon.
Okay.
Imitates Jackson J, 1 to 3, Luke L, 4 to 6. Jackson J, 1 to 3.
Well, my revenge.
Cool. The reverse.
Okay.
It's great. I get to study both of you.
Uno reverse card. Okay.
All right. I pulled up a text here. Let me pick just a sentence from this that's about the same as the length of yours and not too long. Because I guess I had even been thinking about like, oh, well, you know, we'll just do these long speeches, but that's pretty insane.
Be fun.
Hold on.
Round 2, next time, next game.
Yeah, but I hadn't realized that like there actually is a lot of fun in kind of pausing at you know, just a vowel and kind of digging into it for a minute. It's a real different vibe from yours, but this is from Robinson Jeffers Coddor.
I like that. I like that. I feel like that's a good. That's interesting prosodically, I think.
Okay, it's a little bit longer than yours, but like what I had
I'll
pulled up
allow
was Robinson Jeffers Coddor. So it's like I was looking for something that's kind of short from all this. I could get let me look and see if there's anything just a little bit shorter that might work.
I didn't mind trying that.
It's 1 word longer than his. It's good.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Thank you for your attention to detail, Luke. Okay.
It just
all
looks right. Because it spills over the edge and it's full on.
Yeah.
Literally a word in it, I think.
And some of the words, I guess, are easy or the same. All right, I would say, and I'll try to go more casual than like formal reading voice. Is there anything possible to fear and not take what we want openly with both hands?
Okay.
All right, I'll say it again. Is there anything possible to fear and not take what we want openly with both hands?
Okay. I reckon I can approach that.
Okay. And I was just thinking as I said that, you know, casually in my own voice versus reading the quote where I was imitating you, I was thinking about like, again, I also have some like just resonance in certain places. And I think it's not the same as the same places where you kind of add this vocal resonance to the sort of throat echo.
Afterwards, I'd like you to talk about that more, Jackson, once we go around and see if you can isolate certain places where we do that.
Yeah, because I don't think you're going to be the same as me either, Luke.
No, we're all pretty different.
Right. Could you say is there?
Is there?
Is
like it's the same.
There.
Yeah. Like I might actually be there may be some vaguely like nasal quality to me that's not there with you.
Is now
you're doing it well because like something's making you sound more like me than like you when you say that.
Okay, that's reassuring. One thing that I was worried about even before this video is your rhotic, especially post-vocalically, because I don't have a post-vocalic rhotic. So how, if you were to just say like how
mine is, Yeah, mine is pretty back. You know, there's different varieties of this.
Okay. Maybe like velarized.
That's about right.
There. There.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Is there. Now you have the pin-pen merger. Does that apply to? Okay. In.
Yeah.
Any. Would you have the kit vowel for anything, or would you say anything?
So I think I say anything. I think that's actually getting. I think even the thorn is vocalizing the ev when I'm especially conversationally talking.
Right. Okay.
That's cool.
Anything. Anything.
Anything. Yeah, that sounds right.
Anything.
Yeah.
Is there. Is there. There.
You're good at this, actually. It's kind of creepy.
Anything.
Yeah, sounds good.
Possible. Possible.
Yeah, I think that's good because you have a rounder vowel probably for the first vowel in possible, right?
I would, yeah. Possible.
Yeah.
Possible. Is there. I'm trying to like get that into muscle memory. Is there anything possible to fear?
That sounds good.
Okay. Possible to fear. And not.
And I think that's right because there's no D typically in A and D.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I've noticed when I'm talking to my phone, I don't do this very much because speech to text is actually really bad with my accent for some reason. My phone 100% of the time flips A and D and IN.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah, like I can just rely on it to the point where I can say in when I intend to say and it will like hear the right thing that I should have said. Like it's I don't know why.
I remember you saying this for the first time years ago in a video about the word for handle in Norse. Isn't it hon or something?
Yeah, hond. Yeah.
Does it have the D?
Yeah, hond.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I remember you commenting on the D pronunciation, and you're not having it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool.
So with the and or like the or have, would you say schwarten or like something more towards the kit vowel maybe? Like fear and not?
The fear and not. I think I would typically say and.
Okay.
Like really fast conversation, it might trend toward a syllabic. But probably not if I were trying to speak clearly.
Possible to fear, and not. Okay, so here we are with the face vowel that starts higher than mine. Okay. Take.
Yeah, I think it sounds good. Take. Yeah.
Take. And not take. What?
Yeah, this is the notorious one, right?
Do you have a wedge? You have a wedge. What?
I think I have a wedge. I think that's actually one of the things that's a little weird about me in an American accent is I say like what, especially if I'm speaking again like clearly.
Oh, that is.
I think it tends.
Schwa.
I think it turns toward wedge. It may not sound exactly like a wedge to you, but I don't think it's exactly schwa either. Yeah, what?
We.
Yeah.
But we. This is a surprisingly hard word to guess. Not
want.
What we want. what we want. What we want.
Yeah, I guess that T isn't particularly articulated, is it? What we want.
Maybe it's like not released, like it's articulated but not. Although it's
It's about
the
right.
same place as the N, isn't it? So it would just be not.
Yeah, what we
What we
want.
Want.
Sounds about right.
Okay, the goat vowel now. You have like O, openly,
I think it's about right. Openly.
openly,
Yeah.
openly,
Sounds good.
with a th, with, both,
Both. Yeah.
both,
I think
both.
both. Yeah. It's like I think impressionistically my mouth is more open than yours when I say that.
Both.
Just both. Yeah.
Okay. Both. And I know the trap vowel diphthongizes before nasals in a lot of, maybe even most American accents. Hand.
Yeah, that's about right. And then just this would be like hands. I don't think there's a D anywhere in it.
Okay. Hands.
That sounds about right. Sounds
Okay.
pretty nasal, but maybe I sound a little nasal. I don't know.
Hands.
With both hands. Yeah.
Okay, I'm never gonna get the prosody exactly right at all.
No, that is so hard to do. But you're good at the phonetic imitation.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad it doesn't sound too far off, because like you never know, as a not being the speaker, you never know how far off, you know, you're not as sensitive to it obviously as the person you're trying to imitate. Okay, I'll probably have forgotten a load of the things. Is there anything right? Is there anything possible to fear and not take what we want openly with both hands.
I think it's real close. I think what is something you're not quite hitting, but
Okay.
but that's what, like it's what, right? Like it's almost like, you know, kind of whistling into that H, I guess, a little bit. But it also depends on, you know, if I'm talking fast or slow, probably.
What? Is there?
I don't feel like it's quite hitting the.
Do you think it's the consonants at the start that are the problem?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
I don't know. Maybe I hear more of that H than other people hear, but because it's not exactly an H because it's right here. Like it's right. It's not what.
I tend to assume it's in accents that have it, it's just what but voiceless. But maybe there's like an articulate do you feel like there's some kind of tongue articulation? Like maybe like a velar. Oh, I
feel
suppose
almost
what has almost like a vocalic velar articulation.
Well, if I say "wa" and then I say "wa," I feel like there's sort of this mild wind tunnel effect that's created if I try to hold it right. It's like I'm just starting to whistle.
What?
I don't know. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that would be a. What do you do when you're doing like Old English, like what?
I think I normally just do a voiceless. What I think of as a voiceless what. I might be getting it wrong, but like what. What?
I guess it just comes across as real subtle when you do it, and I feel like I get made fun of it all the time, so it can't be that subtle.
No, I know what you mean. I think it definitely does sound different when you do it.
Now, I mean, you know, it's possible that like pretty much any of the other features that you're looking at here are things I never would have thought of before I was, you know, in my 20s when they were dyed in the wool. But when you consider that that voiceless W thing is something my siblings don't have and one of my parents doesn't have, it's like it could be something that like child Jackson brain is constructing to try to get close to an input that's not quite matching what someone else's input might have, or output might have actually been. I don't know. Like, I think Luke, who I think does it as sort of a learned thing, right? Like yours does not sound exactly like mine either.
No, and yeah, exactly. I started doing it years ago when I was doing the Shakespearean thing, and I like this. Oh, people still do this. This isn't just some old-fashioned thing. They still do this in Scotland and in parts of North America. I'm going to start doing that. And then I was always embarrassed by it, so I never did it on camera until like last year, even though I would privately always read that way aloud. But it's completely artificial. And yeah.
And now you're engaged, so you don't care if women talk to you anymore.
As long as that one talks to me, she's the only one I care about. Yeah, so AI, because and I remember reading about it years ago on Wikipedia, and there's they say something interesting too about Hank Hill's quote that is from that it's actually the voiceless W, but it has an H in front of it. And it's done, at least the way they describe it is that it's meant to sound artificial, but Jackson, you sound like it's a completely native sound of that accent, which is now something we associate with Western United States.
My mom does it exactly like I do it. My memory of my grandparents is they did it exactly like I do it.
Sounds like the stronger version, and it's probably, I would guess, the more antique version since it comes from qua, right?
So the more, then you might expect it to be like qua, but
it's not it's debucalized for sure, but
I know people who fake it who do it like that. You know, what? Yeah, which is kind of asinine. But anyway, Simon, I award you. I'm gonna step up a little bit from my performance. I'm gonna say 9 out of 10 on me.
That's very kind. Thank you very much.
And I think you would utterly pass for American doing that accent.
That's very, very kind. Thank you.
So
yeah.
For
sure.
The remaining team would then be let's see, who is, well, because
I have to imitate you both and you both have to imitate me.
Yeah, I was actually about to say I didn't think this through because that is
neither did I.
That is how this ends, isn't it? Because it can't go in a team now, right? So this is actually it's kind of interesting because we come at it two different ways. Like you'd say, oh, we both have American accents, but it's actually a little bit of a challenge because Simon has to figure out how to sound more like you than like me. And then I have to figure out the real subtle things probably that make me sound more like you. So what sentence would you actually have?
My sentence? Is this too long? I can shorten this.
Oh my God.
This is a powerful speech, sir.
I like
it's more Star Trek than I dreamed.
Hey, I had pre-thought. I'm inventing this word. I got it.
Simon is taping it to hide it from himself on the screen, so he doesn't have to see it till he has to.
I like the idea that I would do that manually with tape rather than dragging it straight out.
Wait a minute. You didn't really do that, did you? You blocked it? No.
Oh no, I taped my webcam up.
Oh, that makes more sense. I was a little confused. All right, so this is from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 19, In the Pale Moonlight. And this is the final speech of Captain Sisko.
In
And
case I wanted to find my
Nerd.
exactly what minute and second timestamp is it at?
I'd say it's around the 42-minute mark, maybe 44 roughly, given the average length of an episode, but I'm not perfectly sure. I'd have to check. So, in his long speech, he says, and of course in my voice, a guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant. So I will learn to live with it. And we can shorten that by getting rid of the last phrase if you like. Vote
Okay,
now.
I can see a couple places where I'm gonna, have some differences. Yeah.
So are we doing Jackson imitates you and then I
Or-
imitate you?
Or Simon, you and I can try to do it. Like see which one of us gets
Sure.
closer or something. I don't know
Absolutely.
because I got dumb and didn't think about how to play this.
Do you like the shorter
Um,
version, guys, or do you want the longer one?
I like the longer just because there's actually a contrast there that I think is interesting. Maybe
Okay,
I'm
cool.
happy with the one.
Well, I'll
a
read
contrast
the.
between you and me. I mean,
Okay, I'll read it again then. A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant. So I will learn to live with it.
I'm interested in the word guilty. Guilt is the T dental? Guilty. No,
Guilty.
maybe
guilty,
no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
guilty,
Guilty. I think it's
guilty.
the normal emphatic American T or usual British T, from what I
No,
can tell. Guilty.
I thought I
Guilty.
misheard it.
Guilty.
Guilty.
A guilty.
Yeah, alveolar. I think
A guilty
Sounds good.
conscience.
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 So you have a syllabic in there, right? Conscience.
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 So am I right? Unrounded first vowel.
Yeah, it's
And
because
then-
I don't have the cot merger or cot merger.
And then, well, I do have it, but it's unrounded for me too. But then conscience, because what's different between you and me there is I think I say conscience, like I get the kid
Conscience.
vowel. Yeah, conscience. Yeah,
Cool. Conscience. Yeah, I think it's just a conscience. Sounds like a schwa for me. Conscience.
yeah, conscience.
Conscience. Conscience.
Guilty conscience.
Conscience. Conscience. Conscience. Well, I watched this. I'm going to be saying the same exact thing 3 times.
Are you both going the same time? Which is great by me.
I'd be happy to do it separately. I don't mind.
Fine for me. I just want to know if I should concentrate on coaching one or the other.
I don't mind this going on a long time and us doing it every pairing, but that's up to Jackson.
Up to Jackson.
Oh, we could do that, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, Simon, if you want
Okay.
to get coached.
If you're sure you're okay with that. The timing wise.
Fine by me.
I just fear for the audience.
Simon's a master of editing.
Yes, just edit my own bits in. Okay. A guilty conscience. Conscience
That sounds fine. Yeah, conscience.
is a small.
So small. So I say it's small.
Okay. Small
Yeah, small.
is a small price.
I think it's initial schwa because of the voiceless consonants. So price.
Price.
Yep. Perfect.
Price. Is a small price to pay.
Yeah, pay. So does it sound more close to you, the initial pay?
When you say it like that, it sounds more open. I think I was going with what my generic.
Maybe I'm saying it too artificially. Pay.
Yeah, I think yours is lower than what I was doing, I think.
Okay.
Pay. There's a small price to pay. That sounds wrong somewhere.
That sounds fine.
Price to pay. for
Mm-hmm.
the safety, safety,
Safety. Uh-huh.
of the alpha,
Mm-hmm. The alpha. Sounds good.
the alpha quadrant,
Quadrant. Yep. Sounds good.
the alpha quadrant. So
Say quadrant again.
quadrant.
That's amazing that I perceive something, but there's something, it's so close. What is it that it strikes me as there's
Luke.
something British in it. What is it? Go ahead, Jackson.
Luke, you say it, then Simon say it.
Quadrant.
Like normally?
Quadrant.
Ooh. That nailed it.
Are you
I
sure?
think
If there's
I
like
think you're I think there's something slightly different in the first vowel.
Qua.
Somehow.
Quadrant.
quadrant.
But I think Simon, speaking normally, has a slightly different vowel. I think that it might even be like rounded or something a little bit.
Oh, in my own accent, quadrant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that was it. There was a roundedness to it that I don't think I have. Quadrant.
Quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
Quadrant.
Yeah.
Quadrant.
Yeah. And this is again more my recitation voice. I have affected my own speech so much over the years. I don't think I have a normal accent anymore. So but yeah, that's how I'm saying it right now, and it sounds excellent. Quadrant.
I feel like I did the same thing with my own accent and then thought, oh no, like I don't have a normal person accent anymore, and tried to push it back to a normal person accent for obviously the but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha quadrant.
It sounds like your drint. Sounds like the drint has an I. I think it's more schwa-like for me. Is that right? More centralized? Drint? Quadrant. Yeah. Yeah, that's closer.
Quadrant. The alpha quadrant. Drint. I can hear I'm doing it slightly wrong, but I can't work out exactly what it is.
It's real close. I can't work out the thing either.
I think it's the length of the second syllable.
Ooh, quadrant.
You might be right, actually, yeah. Drint. Quadrant.
Sounds fine.
Quadrant. It's okay if to say it's slightly off, but we're clearly not going to quite get there. So
yeah.
But actually, slight insertion here. I think Simon and I have a similar duration of that second consonant that's different from yours. I think Simon and I have a longer second consonant, second syllable, because I'm probably more like quadrant. It's a little longer than your pretty fast second syllable there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a random thought. I think that's part of why we're stuck on that.
So I will learn to live with it.
So I will. Do you like reduce like wool? So I will.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I'm also partially affected by the actor Avery Brooks, who speaks like a theater actor. So he speaks very, especially clearly. If I'm more relaxed, because I think I have at least two ways of speaking. One that's more relaxed, and one that's more recitation-like. So I will learn to live with it is how I would prefer to recite this. But if I were just trying to say it, I wouldn't say will. I would say, so I'll learn to live with it. So I'll learn to live with it. So I'll learn. Yeah, I would just make a contraction, but written like this. So I will learn to live with it.
So I will learn to live. That part of the vowel space, you get it slightly wrong and it sounds so off. live with it.
Yeah.
Live with it.
Yeah.
Learn to live with it. I find it hard to do with a th, because I always in my own accent it's the.
I always forget to do that too. For my British accents whenever I do them.
I will learn it. I will learn to live with it. Live with it. I feel like
Sounds good.
it's generic and not Luke Ranieri.
Well, we're starting a generic, and it's very American sounding.
Okay, thank you. A guilty conscience. A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant. So I will learn to live. I'm slowing it. So I will learn to live with it. It. Would you pronounce the T? In your recitation, would you always pronounce
the recitation, the final T usually comes out. So so I will learn to live with it is how I want to say this. My internal registers, that's the one I would want to use. So I will learn to live with it. Learn. Let's hear your learn again. Learn.
Learn.
Right. If you can relax the tongue a bit more, it's still rhotic, obviously. Learn.
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 Yeah, that one's tough.
Learn.
I'm not as intensely rhotic. I mean, yeah, I'm rhotic like in the general American sense, but I've always noticed something a little bit more.
Yeah, I can
Not
hear
quite transatlantic, but kind of pushing that way for some reason. I've always had that.
Learn.
Yeah, learn. Yeah, that's how I think that's a bit closer.
I can hear it slightly off, but I do know what you mean.
And I do this weird thing where when I'm talking to the camera, then I start to really say learn and far. I start to really make it more rhotic because for some reason, like I mentally want to be more clear to an audience, like back when I would teach classes and stuff in person. And then when I hear it in recording, I'm like, that's so like retracted R. Why am I doing that? Anyway, weird.
I've noticed
that sounds just interposing for a sec. That sounds more like my R when you do that.
Yeah, Jackson has a nice, strong, more retracted, and you said velarized. You thought, Simon, for Jackson?
I think that's what I'm sticking with. I think, but I could be. Someone could write wrong in the comments because I know there's a lot of slight variations on the approximate that different English speaking areas use.
Cool. If you want, I can do it one more time, whole thing, and you give it one final read.
I'm happy with that.
A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant, so I will learn to live with it.
A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant. So I will learn to live with it. To relax.
No, that man was really good. And it's interesting too, all those little things like small and price and pay. I think you nailed. So that was great. New high score. I forget what the numbers were, but that's let's bump up the score on that one. That was great.
Interesting question. Which accent, mine or yours, could Simon more convincingly pass himself off as an American with?
That's an interesting question. I presume, for all the weirdness in my way of speaking, that it's nevertheless more like general American, more like typical, and you have an accent that would be regarded by Americans as being more unique, special, familiar, but not something
word for it.
Yeah, it's a Western accent. So there's lots of traits that we associated with, say, how cowboys speak, at least over here in the Yankee East.
Well, we're going to have to drill down on some of those with me trying to imitate you.
That's going to be interesting.
So that's what I thought with this is like word for word. There are some words where there's going to be nothing noticeable, but there are a couple places where I think there's things to drill down on. So we already mentioned conscience. so if I'm trying to imitate you, I think it's conscience, where
Yeah.
it's, I think that's a syllabic N,
Yeah.
but for me, there's a kit vowel.
You say conscience?
Conscience, yeah, is more like what I would say.
Ah, okay.
But conscience.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think something also might be a little bit different in small. So say
Small.
small. It's not quite the same.
Look,
Small.
with
Small.
conscience?
No,
Or
small is not quite the same between you and me.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
yours, since you have the caught merger, yours should be more open, right? Small.
Small is how I would normally say it.
Small. I think mine is more round, like small, slightly small.
Okay, yeah, I guess. Is our L the same there?
It's a good question. Small.
Small is how I would normally say it. I think my L isn't all velar there.
I think it's
I
more
think I
intense,
actually-
your L.
Yeah. I also think something that's happening here that's different between you and me is any given resonant, I have a little tiny bit longer than you. And then R, I have like twice as long as you.
Mm.
So that's actually something that I think comes up with the next word. So if I'm trying to sound like you, I think I might say price.
Yeah.
But I think I say price, right? Like the R is like twice as long.
Interesting. Price. How do you say it again? What's the price? Price.
What's the price? Yeah. Like I think I think any given R, I'm saying twice as long as you.
Huh. To me, it sounds like it's the first component of the diphthong is just held longer.
Maybe that's it.
I was hearing as well.
Yeah, but it could be the R articulation is probably different as well.
That may be part of it too. It's just like I have to go so far back in my mouth to make an R that it's like, well, if I'm making the effort to go here, I might as well stay for a minute.
Mm.
But actually, I'm gonna hop to something that I think is more contrastive for me than for you, and that I think affects me trying to imitate you potentially. So it sounded to me, and I was trying to pay attention to this when you would say the whole sentence. I think if I'm being you, price and I have the same vowel or the same diphthong.
Really?
I think I may be off, but price, I will.
Well, you're doing I think you're doing different diphthongs there. The first one starts with more of a schwa, price.
Okay.
And then I, because it's not followed by a voiceless consonant, it starts with an initial ah instead of. Anyway, that's what you did, and they are definitely how I say them. Price and
Price,
I.
okay. Interesting.
What's the difference
'Cause I
though that
think-
you're noticing?
I think, but so they're a little bit contrasted for both of us, but a little bit differently contrasted.
Yeah.
So, because I think I would normally say price, and the first person pronoun is not necessarily a diphthong, right?
Yeah.
Like, depending on what's after it, like in this context, I'm pretty sure that would just be I, right? I will. Like, I'm never gliding on it.
Mm.
Right? It's just going straight into what's behind it. If it's followed by something voiceless, I think the glide is going to come out, but I don't think otherwise that glide is going to come out. I think it's just going to be I will. But which maybe that doesn't sound like a monophthong to you. To me, it sounds monophthongal. I don't feel
It's
like
a
I'm
more
making
narrow
a glide.
diphthong. I think
Is
that's
that what it is? Okay.
And that's yeah, it's the distance between the first and the second parts is more narrow. What do you hear, Simon?
In like I when it's more monophthongized.
Yeah, we'll both say I.
I
agree. I think Jackson's is still a diphthong, but with with less movement of the tongue during articulation. I think so. I feel like your off glide is laxer, but it's still
maybe
there is still
maybe it's like a superscript capital I.
That would be how I transcribed it, actually. Yeah.
But maybe it's like that sort of front A, the one that's done with the very serify A and superscript capital I. That might be about where it's at.
I reckon I would agree with that. Because I like doing the I don't know if it's actually official practice in IPA, but I've seen people do like slight offglides with the superscript thing. Because I don't like vowels with co-articulations doesn't really vowels with vocalic co-articulations. I don't know if it even exists phonetically, so it's not too confusing.
Well, I think it's a good way to represent some differences between pretty fine shades of difference.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, I'm gonna do another cluster of words here.
Want me to say them, or you want to just go?
So the ones that could also be, well, the prepositions or can be prepositions. TO, FOR, OF. Okay. I suspect these are going to be pretty different between your recitation voice and your on the street voice, right? You know, I think that for the most part, if you're speaking casually, it's t, for, of, right?
Yep.
But if you're reciting, it's probably to, for, of, something like that.
Right.
Probably about the same for both of us. Okay. Diphthong pay. About the same.
Pay.
I think we actually maybe syllabify safety different because it sounded like you said safety, and I think I say safety.
Really?
That's
Safety.
Pretty minor, but I think that's a thing.
How do you do it? Say it again.
Safety.
Safety. Safety.
Oh, is it?
The T's articulated differently.
I think yours is aspirated, Luke, and Jackson's isn't.
Ooh, cool.
Oh, okay. Maybe that is it. Yeah.
Safety.
Something I noticed because I do what Jackson does and don't aspirate it, and that I had to make that change. I think
You
when I was
don't. That's interesting. Do other British speakers normally aspirate? That's my impression as a foreigner.
Safety. I would say that in that position. So in British English, aspiration is general, but I think if there's any kind of fricative immediately before a t, it gets deaspirated.
Oh, that's so cool.
I think, but I could prove wrong, but I think that's normal.
Wow.
Safety.
That's fascinating.
That sounds about right to me too. I mean, in terms of what I would do. Interesting that we would pattern together again against Lou. There's super segmental ways in which I think Simon and I pattern together more than Luke and I do.
I think I agree.
And it demonstrates too characteristics that are thought to be, oh, well, those two guys have variations of an American accent. That's a British accent. So they must be different, but it could be demonstrating certain affinities that go back hundreds of years, or they're what's the term? Convergent. That's right. Not codependency, not covalence bond. It's something. Thank you.
We're not talking about my parents. We're talking about accents over time.
Yeah. Convergent evolution, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know what to say about alpha quadrant, except that I think in the same sort of deal here, I typically have that kit vowel in places like this, quadrant versus quadrant.
Alpha quadrant.
And I think your syllabic in there is pretty fast, quadrant, right? Like I don't think it lasts. It's held at all.
Do you have a J sound there? A J? I do.
Yeah, quadrant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably how I'd say that. I guess if I were going for real slow recitation style, it might be quadrant.
Really? That's a cool.
Maybe if I was really trying to be recitation like, but what I was trying to avoid was what I would probably have described for most of my life as like church voice, right? Like, how do you sound reading, slowly for an audience? Because I think that is pretty different. Is our O the same?
No. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's exactly the same.
You think it's the same? So
I don't think it's exactly the same. But I think it's
so.
I feel like you actually have a more, I don't know. I think your O is higher or something.
The initial part, yeah. So, so.
So,
You're closer to O as the initial. So, not quite that.
yeah,
But
it's not
so,
that low,
yeah.
but I think yours is higher. So I will, or I will, or I will, probably depending on, that's more of a positional variation, I think.
Yeah.
Learn, but I have to do it like you, which is probably a little bit less held R, learn.
Mm-hmm.
To live with it. This is going to be real tricky because our suprasegmentals are different, but I will try to say the sentence roughly like you instead of like me. A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant. So I will learn to live with it.
I think the intonation and suprasegmentals we're getting there too. That was fun.
I was trying to like lift my voice.
It's
right.
weird like Jackson talking in such an animated way. I don't mean that in a not just in a like
carelessly, like we were saying before, the carefulness that you speak with, I do not.
I don't know. You are
fast.
careful.
I think you are careful.
I edit myself in the editing bay of the videos.
Do you think there's more pitch variance in your? I feel like in Luke's there's more pitch variance
versus Jackson's
versus just either of mine or his.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I could be wrong though.
Yeah.
If I were more caffeinated, I could probably hit Luke a little bit better.
I'd say that that might be there. Yeah, a little bit more frenetic somehow. I'll if you want, Jackson, do one more time. I'll read one more time, and then you can just go right after. Just now, don't even think about it, just. A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant. So I will learn to live with it.
Guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the alpha quadrant, so I will learn to live with it.
Outstanding.
I think I still made my R's too long, but
nah, that's great. That was cool. Okay. The pressure's on me. Oh no.
So all right, so okay, I've done Luke and Simon. Simon has done me and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's Luke does me.
Sounds good.
Is that right?
That makes sense, I think.
Okay.
All right, Jackson, read again your sentence.
Is there anything possible to fear and not take what we want openly with both hands?
You say there again.
There.
And then anything. Is there anything? Comments?
That sounds about right.
Okay. We'll come back to that. Possible. How do you say that? Possible?
Possible.
Anything possible. Is there anything possible? Okay. To fear. To fear.
Yeah, that will see. I think making that R longer makes a difference.
Possible to fear.
Yeah, just dragging on it for just the tiniest perceptual moment makes it sound, I think, more like me than like you.
Absolutely. I'm also resisting, just as you tried to resist doing, the construction of a British accent. Simon avoid trying to do the construction of an American accent. I'm trying to avoid just doing what I think that guy from California who's always in the Western guy, like in the Big Lebowski.
Sam Elliott.
Yes, I'm so tempted just to do that because it's. But
I met him once.
Yeah. Cool.
He touched me on the shoulder, like in Gladiator, right?
Or in The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, I guess it's true. Yeah,
You're a good dude.
he actually sounds like that in real life.
I believe it. I think it's a natural kind of central rural California accent. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
kind of Bakersfieldy sounding to me.
For sure. Okay, so to fear and not take what we want.
I think your want is more
Want.
schwa than mine is, because I do think mine
Want.
at least heads toward a wedge.
Want.
Want.
What we want.
Yeah,
What we want. How's that? What we want.
sounds all right. I feel a little bit like you're tempted to get into some kind of like George W. Bush territory here.
Oh gosh, well, what that was not my it's
There's
going for
just a little bit of that in some of your vowel qualities. I'm like, that doesn't quite exactly sound like it, but maybe I sound more like that than I realized. I don't know.
I'm sure I'm not
He's from
quite on
Crawford,
target.
Texas, right? So
That's right. That's why your name was so familiar when I heard of you.
like I was the second Crawford you ever heard of. That sounds unlikely. Okay.
Could be. Could be. Okay. Openly. Openly. Say that.
Openly.
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 Openly. Openly. Openly.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's maybe different between us is I think I have the kit vowel, the second vowel there, open, right? Rather than
Open.
like openly.
Openly. Openly.
Yeah.
Openly. Openly. Oh. Openly. Openly.
You know, it occurred to me the real word that I need to challenge you with that's not in any of these is
Oh, do it. I'm trying to think how you might do that.
Do you have like
Voice.
some price merger or something like that?
Voice.
I don't know. This is like I feel like I don't know if I ever say this word exactly the same. Or like any word with that diphthong.
How do you say it? Voice.
Voice, something like that. It's that diphthong I struggle with.
Voice.
But I
Voice.
thought it'd be funny to see if I could get you to do it.
Voice.
That's maybe closer, yeah.
Voice. That's nice. Cool.
It's nice. Okay.
No. Yeah, I like all these cool little things. Voice. So,
but I think the rest of that is about this, like with both hands. I don't know what's
with both
different
hands. I think there's hands. It's a broader diphthong. Like I say hands, so there's definitely a diphthong. Hands. Hands. I think it starts with a bit higher. Hands.
Am I sort of off gliding into a schwa, like hand?
I think
something.
Hands.
Is that kind of what's different there?
It's pretty common in most
so.
American accents to have some kind of diphthong before a nasal, right? Hands.
I think you're right. Jackson starts a bit higher.
Hands.
Maybe that's why voice to text thinks and is in, because my a is kind of high. That could be true.
That could be true.
Interesting. Your frustration with that reminded me of the Scottish woman with Alexa.
I saw that. There's a YouTube video about that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The kind of frustration. These machines should learn our accents and dialects. Well, we are putting this online. We are programming the future AI overlords to understand us perfectly. So that's good. Machine learning. So
I'm still waiting for the Ranieri bot that can perfectly imitate you.
That would be if only I could imitate me. That would be interesting. Could you let's do is there anything possible? Let's do that clausula, that phrase.
Is there anything possible?
Is there anything possible?
I think it's pretty close.
To fear. No, that's too strong. Fear.
That's a word where I feel like you're getting George W. Bush on me.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. It didn't sound right. To do it again for me.
Fear.
Fear. Fear. Fear.
I think the R is longer than the E.
Fear.
That sounds better.
Fear.
I think. Like
Not take.
fear.
Not take. Not take. Can we do and not take what we want?
And not take what we want.
And not take what we want.
It's pretty close.
Hmm. And then last phrase.
Openly with both hands.
Openly with both hands.
That sounds pretty all right. There's something either I'm not hearing in myself about the hands thing, or that we're not quite matching on.
No, I'm doing something. It's probably not low enough. My impression is that your oral posture, like if I want to imitate my stereotype version of Jackson Crawford I have in my head, which is mixed with those other cowboy voices. It's the characteristic more this open throated lower. You know, I'm up in the mountains for 7
Don't you
years.
need like a stalk of grass to be chewing on while you're doing this?
Well, that's nice. Southern United States, kind of working in the fields, sort of thing. That lovely hearty accent.
You've got your lariat like kind of slung over your shoulder there.
Shoulder. Is there anything possible to fear and not take what we want openly with both hands? Hands. Do your hands again.
Hands.
Hands. Yes, I got it right. Hands. It might not be that much.
Sounds about right.
That's not as much of a diphthong as I was thinking. Hands. Openly with both hands.
There's a lot to what you were just saying about mouth posture. I think if you took, a X-ray of all of our heads sideways and kind of mapped a general, like average space of articulation, it's different for each of us, right?
Yeah.
Some of that could be learned. Some of that could be just just happens to be how your mouth is shaped.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Actually, an interesting question here. Has either of you ever professionally sung, or do you know?
Not professionally.
Well, do you know what are you like bass, tenor, baritone?
I'm a bass.
Okay.
I'm not
Simon,
sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I talk much higher than my comfortable singing range normally.
Okay.
Unless I record early in the morning.
But I was thinking there's something like we might all be probably in the baritone bass end of that scale, but we're not on the same place on it.
I was thinking about that today, actually. Yeah, I think we all have effectively a speaking range that's bass baritone, absolutely. But our way of manifesting that is dramatically different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
And then pace is a suprasegmental thing that I think is pretty different between us. I think, I'm slowest, then Simon, then Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hard to like escape, like
if you talk quicker than you're used to, you trip up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I find it hard to slow down and not overthink what I'm hearing.
Well.
Is there, because then I'm just saying, is there anything possible? That sounds more like passable, but if I go, is there anything possible? I realize I keep overthinking everything and it doesn't come out any better for sure.
Well, and I think interlocutors, even casual ones, can tell if you're at your ease or not. And where you're at your ease is different for each of us. Like Luke, you might feel like I sound like I'm overthinking if I speak too slowly, but I feel like if I try to speak faster, it's like I sound on edge or something.
Yeah.
but if I spoke a little bit faster, more like you, I don't think anybody necessarily would hear me that way. It's just that maybe my own self-consciousness about it would actually project that. I don't know.
Wow, that does create a very different impression of your mood.
Yeah, probably.
That's fascinating.
I mean, right, because I'm this, evil turtle, right? And you're this, and you're more the cheerful, rabbit that's kind
Bunny
of
rabbit. I was hoping you'd say bunny.
Yeah, yeah. So
Hope that steak don't get me back there.
Well, I mean, actually, there's some funny cultural things there, right? Like, I mean, between the three of us, like, who do you cast just based on voice? Who do you cast as the hero? Who's the rogue and who's the villain?
Oh, well, that's a cultural thing too, right? What kind of a movie is it? If it's a Western, you're the hero, right?
True.
If it's
Thanks.
a James Bond movie, well, obviously Simon's the hero.
True. Okay.
And I don't know what I would, I definitely could be the
Star
villain in
Trek.
either one of yours. Oh, you're right. That is my genre. Thank you. You're the best. Yeah, I could be some bridge officer. Sure, I could accept that.
What color shirt? I wonder.
Original series or next generation? I have red on, so let's just go with red and leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, there are funny cultural associations there, and sometimes I felt like not when Simon was doing me, but when Luke was doing me, there were moments where I thought, "Hey, buddy, it sounds like you're trying to sound like the dumb guy in a cartoon or something, right?" And it's because there are some like Southern or Western or broadly just like rural features that get sort of applied to, like, oh, that's the.
But even to you, who has the accent.
Well, but if it's, but you can also tell when people are putting it on a little bit.
That's
like,
true.
When you're doing it well, I don't hear that. But when you were like a little bit off, and I said, you kind of wandered to like George W. Bush territory. His accent is also notoriously a little bit fake.
Yeah.
And you can so 100% tell on country radio if someone is singing with their real accent or trying to put on an accent. Like it grates on me so bad when people imitate a stronger accent than they have.
Isn't that interesting? We have a lot of sensitivity for that, and which is why politicians will make them sound more folksy. Bush and Obama, I think, were known for doing that. You could compare how they speak in one situation versus another.
I hate it.
If you think I've made that mistake less, I wonder if it's because I am more removed from the cultural associations, and so when I make mistakes, they're just random phonetic mistakes rather than cultural conditioned ones.
Right.
I think it's 100% right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that might have gone the same way if we had two British speakers here too. There could have been something similar if you had someone with a
northern accent.
Yeah, like someone from Leeds or something. I don't know. I was just trying to think. Yeah. You might have associations like that might have come up.
That'd be cool. Well, speaking of British, I have the most difficult challenge to do.
Yeah, so I'm gonna play your David Tennant, and you're gonna
and dub him. Could you let me hear the sentence again, Simon?
Yeah. No one in this world is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people.
Looking forward to understanding lighten.
Do you want me to do it again?
No, we'll get there. We might as well go in order.
Yeah.
No one. What's your one vowel? One.
We were thinking it was probably the wedge, like one.
One. No one.
I'd say with no, I think the start point is maybe more central, like
no.
That's getting there.
No one.
I think that's very good on the no. I think the one vowel.
One. What? One. Say it again.
No one.
No one. Yeah. For some reason, just say one.
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 I
One.
think that's right.
One. I have to remember the two pieces now. One. No. One. No. No.
No.
No. No. One.
Maybe
No. One. No. One.
if the O diphthong started a bit further back, maybe. No one.
No one. No one. Hmm. Yeah, I hear the difference.
May I comment?
Please.
Luke, I think your no sounds too long to me.
No.
No one.
No. No one.
No
That's that sounds closer.
No one. Hmm.
one.
Let's-
I still think that. Oh, if you want to move on with
No, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I still think the start of the no diphthong is maybe a bit too high and a bit too forward.
No. 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 No.
No.
No. No.
That's
No.
really good.
No.
That's very good.
I'm actually just doing what you told me to do. No. 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 One more time.
No one.
No one. No one. No.
I,
No. 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 Darn it.
that there was
That was better.
sounded so British.
No. No one.
That's so good. That's
Is that,
incredible.
but is that you? Is that what you do?
I think so. It's hard in my head. It's hard
No.
to, in the same way it's hard to answer, does my friend have exactly the same accent as me?
No.
But I would say that's as good as I would be able to tell the difference, kind of thing.
So you gave me the cheat code because you just released the Great Vowel Shift video and you showed your vowels. And so if I actually think of the IPA, that's when you say it sounds right. Like, oh, well, maybe I should do no, no, one, no, no one. All right, let's move on for now. Otherwise, I'll mess it up again. I think your I is higher than mine, which I also think is typical of British versus American I. In. Yeah, I'd say in. There's also a diphthongization with the nasal, which is different. Let's use this. What's your this sound like?
This.
This.
That's perfect, I think.
In this.
I reckon maybe with in, try just a tiny bit lower. Maybe not as low.
Okay. This. In this.
That's perfect, I think.
In this world. Let me hear your world again.
World. Maybe a bit more velar with the L.
World. World.
That's good. I think that's good.
One more time.
World. I think that's pretty much right.
Yeah, that's a hard one too. That's infamously difficult word. You got everything's slightly labialized and velarized,
yeah,
but differently in both accents.
Not do the rhotic as well, which you didn't do the rhotic at any point, I don't think.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so use.
That's pretty close.
Useless. Useless.
That's good. I think that's good.
Okay, so your initial L's, do you have the bright L?
I think I have for initial.
Okay.
Useless. That was good. That one there.
Useless. Darn
it.
Really? Oh, okay. So that was off.
I think you're really getting there with that. I'm trying to think how actually diphthongized my goose vowel is there, because I think it might smooth there.
Interesting. Could you say, I wonder if with voice consonants make a difference. Can you say use and use, noun and verb?
Use.
Useless.
I think that's
useless.
I didn't know you were Luke Ranieri and you told me you were British. I think the only thing that's slightly
one word at a time
is with the lus. sometimes you're doing it perfectly, and sometimes you're being dragged a little bit towards the kit vowel, maybe.
The vowel. Okay.
Vowel of less.
Less. Useless.
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 I think that's very good.
Okay. If they.
That sounds perfect for like a British accent. I'm trying to work out how low my
They. If they.
maybe a bit higher for the start of the A.
If they.
Perfect.
If they. If they lighten. How do you do this? Lighten. Lighten. Lighten.
That's really close. Lighten.
Something's off. I've always had trouble with doing a bright L, especially because of obviously I record Latin stuff, Latin audio all the time, and it's essentially the same as the Italian L, but my American L always comes through, especially if I'm reading quickly. Sometimes I nail it, other times I don't. So this one's really hard for me. Lighten.
That sounds fine to me.
Yeah, lighten. Okay.
That's perfect, I think.
I'm still a little velarized, I think, but I'll take it. I'll take the win on lighten. The burdens.
I think the vowel's a bit. What is it?
But burdens.
Burdens. Very close.
Can you say it without your hand in front of your mouth?
Oh,
good. No, it's okay. Just say it again.
Burdens.
Burdens. No, I'm doing something else. Burdens.
That's getting closer.
Burdens. Oh, need more,
That's
maybe more. More openness laterally. Burdens. Burdens.
That definitely sounds like British, but I don't know if it sounds exactly me in terms of
burdens.
Maybe it is the vowel quality, I think that's getting within the range of what I wouldn't be able to tell wasn't British.
Burdens.
I think that's really pretty much there.
Okay. Maybe all together it'll saying the phrases together will bring something together. We'll see. Of. Well, that's in isolation. You'd say of other here, right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Of on its own and then of. But other sounded. Try other again.
Other. Other.
What if the vowel's a bit lower?
Other.
That's about right, I think.
Good, you say it.
Other. That's
other. It's interesting. When I hear that I perceive some kind of muscular thing here that's different for me. I perceive it because it's different for me, so it sounds more tense here for me.
Oh, I get what you mean. I was thinking, hang on, did I somehow nasalize that? But it's not nasality. It's like other. Maybe it's just so low and back that it's actually obstructing the throat a little bit.
Other.
Is that thing? Other.
Well, it's an interesting question. I often think about this. For example, you can get a German who does, say, the reconstructed Latin pronunciation, or even ecclesiastical Latin pronunciation. It doesn't really matter. But let's say they're trying to do the typical reconstructed Latin pronunciation of a long O is long U. But the way that sounds like, that quality of a closed O sound, even though it's just the same IPA character, the realization between a German and an Italian doing it is like the most noticeable thing in the world to me. I always kind of thought of it as like the Germans are doing it more closed, and that's possible because the difference between the closed and open sets of the mid vowels in Italian, it's pretty narrow. Like even people who have it natively, sometimes they're like, "Wait, is that open or closed?" And I ask, "Oh, it's obviously open." And I'm, really, or closed? Or I get confused. And also, there's a little bit of what is it called? Chain something. What's that effect?
Chain
shift.
A chain shift. It's not really a chain shift because there's not an exchange of vowels, but Romans speaking Italian tend to make all of them just a little bit higher. So what an open e or o can sound much more true mid, A and O, respectively. But there are other ones that are closed are just a little bit more closed. So you can still tell that kind of thing where it's always the same basic IPA points, but there are definable IPA subtleties. And then there's undefinable stuff that, is it oral pasture? When it goes off the IPA chart, I mean, it's literally off the chart. I don't know what to do after that. I'm saying these things like my good friend Rafael Torrijano is a linguist. He's often like doubted the significance of oral pasture, even though I think he's a master of it. And I don't know. I really think it's a big deal. Anyway, sorry, I got a little
No, I definitely feel it.
I was just going to say, and for the record, while you're on that, and the resonance thing that I was talking about, because I think we all have what I'm calling the sort of echoey resonance, but on different words, and it's in different places for us. I think with Simon and me, it kind of goes into the throat or chest, and Luke, sometimes you have a little touch of like a nasal resonance on some words. That's just hard to, I mean, you could describe it, but it's pretty hard to pinpoint exactly where to expect it.
Yeah. And then think of the imprecision with which that Arab author described the singing of the Vikings and how that gets misinterpreted in all kinds of crazy ways.
Yeah,
it's like sound like dogs or whatever he said, and it's
right.
like, well, clearly that was throat singing.
Right. It's like, well, I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways, so you know. Yeah, right. It's like...
I want to use "I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways" as a quote at the start of some book chapter at some point.
Actually, I had this idea after I finished my attempt here. I want us each to say that phrase and imitate each other to finish off. So we say the same thing.
Okay. Or you could always just start this video with I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways. It's like just an intro. Like, let people wonder, like, where does that come from?
That's good. And that's quote anonymous.
I don't know why this struck y'all so much.
It's a good one. Okay, and then our last word is. So remember, who is the gentleman who he has the channel too, Simon, who's done the more precise stuff with modern Southern English phonetics. Where
is it Jeff Lindsay?
Yes, yeah, and then that's what really keyed me into the idea that this is an IPA thing. You can obviously tell that it's I plus a Y for E. I do E, so people.
I think in my accent it does vary from E to E, but depending on the word. So I'm trying to work people. I think the diphthong is very, very narrow in this case. People. Maybe it's not even a diphthong actually for this word. People.
I think it's a shorter first syllable in Simon than in the way Luke is saying it.
People.
That's getting there. I think the main thing there is maybe the second syllable.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more like, or maybe it's more vocalic like that. Yeah, like people.
People.
That sounds
people.
Better.
People.
That's good.
All right, let's try some. Go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say I wonder about the aspiration, but I think you were doing the aspiration on both P's. People.
Are they both aspirated?
I think for me they are, but the second one less.
People. Cool. People. Nice. All right. Could you say you pick your phrases. You say the phrase and I'll repeat.
Okay. What as in with
like up to world might be a good first phrase.
Okay. No one in this world.
No one in this world. I'm very rusty. All right. No one in this world. No one in this world. Try again.
No one in this world.
No one in this world.
I think
no is off by a lot.
Maybe one is slightly off.
And one is off. Yeah, that no one, man, that's a tough one. No one.
It's a weird diphthong. No one in this world.
No one. No 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 one. No no
One of-
one. No one. No one. No one. No
No one.
one. So
It's
good.
okay. No one in this world.
No one in this world.
Comment?
Please.
The second part of the diphthong in no is shorter when Simon is saying it than when Luke is, and that's part of what's making this different.
Yeah. No one.
That sounds pretty good, I think.
No one. No one. No one.
That sounds really British. I think that's maybe a bit posher than my accent, but I think it's one of those diphthongs that's so hard to get right.
I assure you, sir. I assure you, sir. Seashell, seashell, the seashore. I assure you, sir, you are the poshest of all of us here. There is no doubt about that.
only by some unearned colonial metric.
And that's how language works.
Yeah, that's true.
You won the lottery.
I won the lottery.
So, no one is you useless useless is useless.
It's useless.
Is useless if they lighten the burdens of other people.
I think that sounded British. I think
Really?
it's one of those where it's like British but not quite Simon.
Yeah.
Very good though.
It's so interesting because it's so many things to remember when uttering the phrase. I can remember each correction and guidance that you gave, but putting it into practice is so difficult. So much fun though.
It's the same with like doing, I was saying, like any kind of phrase that I'm recording that's supposed to be in some random historical dialect. It's like every little phonetic detail I'm trying to get right, and I always somehow end up missing one or two.
Yeah, especially reading. Reading I find challenging.
You got to grade him, Simon.
Okay. I will go. I think I'll go 9 on that one.
That's more than I deserve. I'd be happy with a 6.2.
Oh god, not a 6 point. No, that was very good.
Oh, that's fun. No, man, I'm gonna every time you do a video now, I'm gonna be thinking about that no vowel, and
it's so distinctive. I mean, it's so distinctly different between British and American English.
Yeah.
Well, Simon, you may be the poshest here, and Luke, you might be the second, but I'm the poshest son of a bitch on these high plains.
The highest of the plains.
I like them. I can't imagine a cowboy boasting of that.
I don't know. It sounds like something.
No, I don't have to imagine it.
I can imagine the context.
Were you able to identify, Jackson, the resonance thing in more words or phrases or consonants?
I think there's some key to this, that if someone were to follow each of us and transcribe what each of us said for like in the narrowest IPA transcriptions, you could eventually get down to the exact conditions of it. My first blush impression, just from trying to pay more attention to it in the past couple hours, is Luke, I think you have a little bit of a nasal resonance when there is something nasal or nasalized. And then I think Simon and I, though differently, have more of a sonorant resonance. That's not so more like R's and L's. But because our R's and L's are so different and come up in different places, it's coming up in different, it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah.
I don't know. This isn't very technical, but I think that's as close as I'm getting here.
I feel like that would make sense because, like you say, you have obviously post-vocalic R And you also have a different distribution of L, because I assume you have darker L across the board generally, whereas I have lighter L pre. There's probably a slight articulation difference though.
I think the darkest L between us is Luke's.
Yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely. I think that might be like light, full.
I see.
Light, full. My tongue still gets up by my alveolar ridge when I do all those. Light, full.
But what about the back of the tongue?
Light, full.
Light,
I mean,
light.
yeah, the back
light,
of the tongue
full.
is in play too, but I feel like it's more with you.
Right. Cool. Yeah. That's would explain a lot.
Well, I mean, like who knows? But I think that it's an interesting thing that you, to me, you have a darker, more velar L often.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things that's a spectrum that the IPA isn't well equipped to transcribe beyond just clear or dark.
Is there a way to rationalize these things that clearly exist, that can be observed, but don't fall in the IPA chart? Other than just formants.
Like velarizations, I'm not actually sure, like degree of velarization, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's things like more rounded, less rounded diacritics, but they only go so far. Because you can, if you can stack them on top of each other, but it's still only vaguely.
Because I was thinking of how a German says Sohn, but how an Italian says sole, and how, well, I should use something that starts with an no, nothing starts with an S in German, so always but you understand what I mean. So so instead of so, and I'm attempting to imitate something more German-like in so, and something more Italian-like in so, and I don't know what that is. If that's what I'm just throwing into the basket of oral posture, or it's something very fascinating, which is part of this certainly super segmental or less. Maybe it's on the IP chart partially, but I don't know what that is, and I would love to know how to quantify it, because I think it could be a fascinating way to really drill down on certain dialect differences, such as between us, or, for example, how to theoretically coach. A German has that same closed O vowel as the Italian, but how do they make it sound more Italian, other than just using their imitatory faculty, which is all that we can do otherwise? Do you know of anything?
I think duration has a bigger part to play in this than a lot of other factors. Duration of particular vowels in a given language or dialect, and then the duration that a particular speaker tends to have. I think that those are pretty big variables.
I think that is something that, again, the IPA chart, probably because there are usually only two contrastive vowel lengths, if there are even two, very, very occasionally three. I've seen people like with the colon thing just do one colon when they're trying to represent an allophonically slightly longer vowel, but it's, you can only do so many degrees, and it's always within a phrase relativistic. If someone's talking slower, then it's like a complicated relationship between how fast are they talking, and then that, rather than it being this vowel is this many milliseconds long. I feel like with the German Italian thing, it sounded like there might be a difference in articulation, where the German one is maybe more peripheral and the Italian one is maybe a little bit like more central.
That's a good idea. It's a good way to think about it dimensionally on the chart.
I think there are definitely things between vowel systems that don't seem to have IPA good correlates. Because one thing that I like with the Geordie accent, which is kind of like a northeastern English accent.
Not LaForge. Not Commander Geordie LaForge of the Starship Enterprise. Okay. No, I'm sorry.
I assume not, but possibly.
Save it.
I did know
your secret Star Trek podcast. Okay.
I mean, you haven't seen the Star Trek dubs on the other channel, the other channel. I'll send it to you. You'll see it.
Other.
But I was wondering, how do you transcribe their goat vowel? because it's something like oh, and then I realized, oh, in papers they're actually transcribing it with the upside down Amiga IPA symbol, and that can just represent a much tenser thing than I normally think of it as representing. So I normally
Upside
think
down
of
omega. I don't know. Do I have this in my
maybe
AP?
maybe I don't know what omega is, and I'm just
No, I'm sure
wrong.
you know what
Is like the U, the
omega is, but
like the foot.
Horseshoe. I've always heard it called horseshoe.
you don't mean
I might be wrong about the fact
you don't mean
that
that one, do you?
No, hang on, I'll
Yeah,
do it.
I didn't think so. That's
That is that omega?
approximate. Oh, that's the horseshoe,
Ah, that's what they call it. Okay,
right?
okay.
I mean, that's what I've
So
heard it
that's-
called before. Oh,
So that's put, book, yeah.
Yeah, but like
So hey, by the way, that brings up an interesting little difference. If we had Travis in here, Travis doesn't have that vowel.
doesn't have that vowel. What does he say?
He has the pull pool merger. So it all goes to oo.
is that
He
in
says
all
he says
situations?
put it down, put it down.
Put it down. Yeah, I mean
Really?
it's
I
not
haven't noticed.
long, but put it down. Yeah,
Put.
It's interesting.
yeah. Pull pool. It's a West Texas thing.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't notice that. So you were saying that Geordie has this o vowel for what words?
For the goat vowel, so like
Good.
goat, goat. No, hang on,
Good.
goat. But it's tenser than it is in my put vowel. So rather than
Good.
goat, it's like goat.
Good.
I'm not doing it very well, but what I mean is like
Yeah.
what I always thought of as like the IPAO symbol is probably higher. Maybe that's not quite the appropriate transcription for it, but it's. I'll send you a recording later of one of the Autumn Dialect Survey recordings where he does it like with the word pole. He's like all.
En dan gaan de vak straight to the same hole.
All. All.
But it
Cool.
sounds maybe the Italian one is not that, but like to me it sounds impressionistically more like that than like all, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I agree.
So maybe
I definitely agree.
a bit more central and maybe slightly higher, but I don't know.
It's a good way to conceptualize it.
But obviously I don't know anything about Italian, and you actually speak it, so I don't want to.
No, well, not with an American accent. So we'd have to get a real Italian, and also then, of course, Italian dialects. Not just dialects, but the accent variations are notoriously various.
If only you knew an Italian.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what we can do about that. Get her on the show. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That was fun.
Yeah. Well,
try
I've
to
heard
imitate foreign accents. That could get interesting.
it would be amazing to hear you, Jackson, imitating Irene. That would be great.
You know, I married a couple in an English-Italian bilingual ceremony.
There you go.
Were you like ordained in some way, or?
Yeah, you know, I just got the, you know, Universal Church of whatever thing online.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Lovely. Well, I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways. How about you guys?
Who am I doing first?
How about
Well, are we going to do each one of us does it, each one of us?
Well,
Oh,
we could
yeah,
try.
so-
Just give it one shot.
Or are we going to be like a chorus of Luke's and then a chorus of Simon's? Or
Sure. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Okay.
Oh, my phone has
Well-
died dead, so sorry about the lighting change.
It's okay. It's atmospheric. I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
I've heard dogs.
Yeah, it's all like my small vowel, dogs.
Okay, I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
Very nice. Yeah, the only difference, my lots is, I think, more open, like hot, cot. I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
Nice. Well, we'll imitate you, Jackson, one more time for us.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
Nice. That was good.
Simon, you do me really well.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was very good.
Luke, you do me pretty well.
I got too much watching too many Westerns.
I mean, like, I'm flattered by the association. But Luke Gordon says that my super segmentals can be observed by just watching. It's like I have like TV Western super segmentals or something.
You know what I mean? He sees the formants as you speak.
It's
Yeah.
like the air vibrating so like much that
He might.
if you watch the heat haze, like the haze coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
All right, Simon, we have to imitate you.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
I've heard dogs. No, go ahead, Jackson.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
One more time for me, Simon.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways.
I've heard dogs sounding lots of ways. Oh man, that was awful. But I certainly enjoyed that. That was fun.
Enjoyed that little experiment.
Phonetically, I think, Luke, you get close on Simon, but the resonance difference is really interesting. Anyway, just a kind of thought. But this was a fun little experiment. I hope folks in the audience find it kind of fun. We drilled down into some nitty gritty stuff here.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. It was great.
Okay, I'm going to use my dice again as a concluding activity real quick. Okay, so Luke, I'm going to give you one of my credit card numbers. Simon, you give one of yours to Luke, and
yes, this
Luke,
is
you give one of you.
Dr. Jackson Crawford,
formerly
of Boulder, Colorado, would like to make a withdrawal.
Yeah, or see if you could fool a loved one. That would be kind of fun too.
That would be really fun. The idea of Jackson calling his bank and introducing himself as formerly a Boulder.
Think about it. That's the phrase we hear most, or have heard most, watching the videos for years.
They're just sitting there thinking, "Oh, come on, I hear
the
this
catchphrase
every time you call." Yeah.
It's like engage. Yeah.
How many Dr. Jackson Crawfords do you think we have at this bank?
I know a guy, not name names obviously, but who has the exact same spiel every time he meets someone new, and it's an amazingly long spiel, and I could basically quote it at this point. So there's some people who do that.
Like his life story, or
yeah,
wow,
like it's kind of annoying, right? Like you meet someone and you just like launch into it immediately, but it's to the word. I can generally kind of predict it. Anyway.
Pretty good. I've definitely noticed people who had like very strong verbal tics that were kind of distinctive and were very, like, when you notice them and then they're saying it every fifth thing they say is like,
Right.
I do
like
all
Ranieri
kinds of
saying, "May the force be with you." And
God, he says
well,
that.
since Star Wars as a franchise has so terrifically crashed in popularity, I'm not sure if I was never, I didn't grow up loving Star Wars. I started watching middle school age and later like, oh, this is cool. But I grew up watching Star Trek. That's more me.
Yeah, I know. I was needling you.
Oh, I don't mind. I mean, I'd love it if you limit us to the original trilogy.
Live long and prosper, right? That's
right.
Yeah.
Live long.
Oh, it's that. Okay.
You could do it. That's good. It's a difficult talk about muscle memory. That's hey, all right. You can all come to the convention.
That's how I hold my Kindle.
That's it shows the erudition of the forward-thinking technological Vulcan society.
There you go.
Here I am on the floor, mere seconds after recording the intro to this video. Yeah, I'll put links to Jackson and Luke's channels in the description on the off chance that you haven't already found them. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.